Yes. 11:30.
Oh. Hi everyone, you guys get us 3 beautiful women today. You gotta pause it. Chris is really mad. He didn't get asked to be up here with all these girls, so don't mind his attitude today. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're gonna get started with the business meeting. Who has a win this week that they want to share? Travis?
Oh, I'll share.
Thank you.
Met with a dude, cancel expired.
Slideshow.
Loan on one day last week. The listing agent that he hired listed it as a foreclosure.
Oh, okay.
Pissed him off so bad he took it off the
Yeah.
next day.
I don't blame you.
Met with me yesterday. He's got 12 condos and he needs to sell in the next 6 months. And we agreed to list all 6 or all 12 of them.
Awesome.
And the first one's going up this week.
Yeah. Crazy. So let's take it a step back. So
Called an
you called it.
Actually, I didn't. So I got
Okay.
this agent up in Bellingham. This guy named Ryan. That's all he does is calls. And I do call cancel expired.
Yeah.
Do you need this?
So I give him a referral, and he sets it up like that. And so he teed it up. A lot of his stuff doesn't go anywhere. Like he'll call me and he'll be like, "Yeah, I got an appointment for tomorrow at 4," and I'll call and they'll be like, "Who the hell are you?" I didn't, so a lot of it's like, but no harm, no foul. If it works out, it works out. Most of them, some of them turn into longer follow-ups.
Yeah.
This one,
How did you find Ryan?
he found me
Oh, awesome.
like 3 years ago. Actually longer than that. I think it's like 2018. He kind of disappeared in between like 2020 and 2022. We didn't have a lot of
There wasn't
expires,
expires,
right? He showed back up 6-7 months ago and started sending me stuff again. I think he likes working with me because I follow up with him. But even if it's garbage, I tell him, and then he knows that I'm gonna, if there's an opportunity to close him, I'll close him. So, yeah, so I just called him and I was like, "Oh, please don't do this with Ryan is." And he was like, "Yeah, I had a great conversation with Ryan. Dude lost his son, tragic, lost his son like 4 weeks ago, 24 years old." So there's this whole, what we do is bigger than real estate, right? So I always approach it from that connection level. And Ryan had told me he may have a lot to sell, blah, 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 but I just looked to see if I can help him. And we met at the office yesterday and had a great conversation about an hour and a half. He really wanted to get me down to 2% on commission. Y'all, I don't typically lower my commission at all, but it's $4 million, almost $4.5 million worth of posting. So we did them just a tad. And it's gonna work out.
Awesome.
So,
Keep us updated. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think I have a great win because I went door knocking on Friday and it said do not solicit and I knocked anyway and I said I'm not selling.
You're not selling anything.
I actually the owner is selling something and I'm just showing him come by if you're curious to see what the market looks like. Let me know. Lo and behold, out of 12 people, they actually came.
That's awesome.
And on top of that, she liked the presentation and whatnot. She asked me, "Can you come and look at my house after?" I go 2:30. So I came a little bit early. Hubby let me in and kind of look at the house, and she said that they're thinking about retiring in 3 years. So potential listing, and also she does real estate. She's a lawyer in Des Moines. So I just asked her this morning. I'm like, I'm so busy with trying to help my friend that had a brother that had a stroke, and I was fixed fence, and then I had to help her them, and then she's flying out today. So I'm so sorry I got back to you late today because she wanted to know the contractor information. So I'm like, I'm so burned out. But please accept my apology. So she got back. She said, "Oh, okay." So she wants me in this year to do her listing. So
That's awesome.
so that's a potential there. So it's not immediate, but it's pipeline.
Great.
It's all about.
Fantastic.
One more.
I would love to go.
Yes, you can.
I had a buyer from my SOI reach out to me on Thursday. I had them here for my Friday. Sunday, met with them Sunday afternoon for coffee. Monday, set things up. Tuesday, looked at a home.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna get going. Who can tell me what this is? I know it's at our meeting every week. Who knows what this is?
Why we're all agents of KW.
Thank you. I want to take one of the beliefs. Let's talk about, how about trust? That was a good one. Trust starts with honesty. Who can give me an example of you putting that out this week, or someone in our office or in the community? Good thing we're having this conversation.
I met with a new buyer this weekend, and when we were going through the form, I realized for me personally, as I was going through it, I know normally we check, exclusive, and then we're not gonna go look at homes unless you promise to pay me my percentage, like that's usually the format. And I got to that part of the thing, and I said, you know what? I'm not gonna put any exceptions on this line. I will literally just take you to any house you want to see. And I have faith and trust in the universe that we'll work it out. And that's what I said to them. And they were like, awesome. And they signed the buyer thing. And that was it. And I had to have that trust that I was gonna be able, as an agent, negotiate for my clients, negotiate with the sellers, that I was gonna find them the right place. And I was just gonna believe that I was gonna get my percent that I'm not supposed to say out loud on the line.
Awesome.
You can't say you're getting a certain number of peaches. Getting 2.5 cookies.
I love it. Okey doke. Moving on. We always have to go over the do not call. Make sure you check it. Same stuff every week. Next up, we have Miss Susan.
But we talk about it every day.
Yes. It's all good.
She's like, get out of my way, get out of the way.
Hi. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to add additional agents. Well, it's not an additional client. How to add additional agents to an existing client is actually how that should be. Everybody knows the good virtual assistant. No, really, I do have a team in the firm that's looking for a new VA, and that just reminded me of that. So when we are analyzing questions associated with adding agents to an existing client relationship, you need to think about two separate but related obligations. With every agency relationship, you have to form the agency with a client, and then you have to disclose it to the other party. So that's two facets. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys opportunity to respond. So you're the listing broker. Your seller wants you to hold their house open this weekend, but you are already booked. So you've got an eager new broker in your firm that is willing to hold it open. So we have Nicole.
Yes.
Says, I will hold your listing open. So what do we need to do for paperwork on this? Any ideas?
I can't remember the form name.
Okay. This is-
Would it be considered that they're not on vacation, so you wouldn't need the vacation form, that form? Would you need a 19?
No.
I don't think you need
So
any.
right now, the way, let's
Jeff doesn't think you need anything.
break it
They're
down.
not representing the
They're not
seller.
representing
So
now.
the seller and the listing firm are already in a contract or listing agreement, right?
Yeah,
So you and
in the firm.
you, the firm, and the firm and you as the representative of the firm or the agent. But by definition, no other broker licensed to the firm represents the seller, excepting, of course, the managing broker designated broker, because we're factored in by definition. So when Eager Nicole holds the seller's house open, they are not representing the seller. So they don't have an agency relationship with the seller that's outside of what you and the firm think. But if the seller is advised and agrees to Nicole holding the house open, then go for it. You can do it. You don't need any additional paperwork. By virtue of Washington law, Nicole's going to represent the buyer
We all were like,
in this open house. Okay.
I was
This
really
goes
worried
into the
about that.
category of Susan's job search.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, she's on, she's been bitches. I know, all the time, I do that, like, this is gonna change. Yes.
So Nicole, if so, oh, sure, your other broker, Nicole, she can do my open house, no problem. As long as the seller understands, Nicole's not gonna be representing the seller, she's gonna be representing the buyer in the absence of any other paperwork. Now, if seller says, oh no, I don't want anybody holding my house open that doesn't represent me personally, I want them to be representing my interests while they're holding that house open. Okay, now what do we need?
Now they sign.
Form 18.
18.
Which amends the listing agreement. And there you can add either Nicole to the agency agreement between you and the seller, or with the seller, to say, we're adding an additional broker. Now, do we have Form 18 in there?
So just the next question.
Oh, they didn't do any slides?
Nope.
All right, well, in Form 18, you can fill in Nicole's name. And then there's an other box, and you can there describe any limitations on that agency relationship that you have agreed upon with either Nicole. You're going to be the seller's agent for the term of the open house only. So this agreement is good for this day. Or if she wants to have an open house every weekend, how many do you want to do? You want to do 3? Okay, we're going to put those dates in. So you can limit the term.
Does it also have a check line or check box for the limited dual agency?
Yeah. Okay. 18 does have that. So that's good question. Because the seller didn't initially agree to limited dual agency on your listing agreement, but then later that situation is going to present itself. So you've got a buyer who says, hey, I want you to represent me too.
Turn it over to someone
Then
else.
you can use Form 18 to get that seller's written consent before you take on that buyer as a client and perform that agency too. Okay, we might not get through all these. We'll see.
Did you have a question, Mike?
I mean, when can we be advised against holding?
If it's your own listing, then you have an agreement with the seller to be their agent. You have a listing agreement.
Correct, but I can set my own. It would represent both sides.
Personal
If
choice.
you have an agency agreement with a client, then you're representing them and them only.
Correct, but what I'm saying is that I would set the open because I don't want to represent the buyer because you can't represent both people.
Well, that's your option. You
Right.
can represent both, but
You can.
because
But I think
dual agency is now limited to where you're
Right.
basically a conduit of communication between the parties because of the changes in agency law that went into effect in January. You can't do anything for one client that's going to be to the detriment of the other.
Correct.
So that makes negotiations very difficult. And some people, very few brokers, I think, are really comfortable with that function. But certainly if you get into that situation and you want to check it over, give me a call and we can run the pros and cons. Okay, I just had a question on TCs this morning. Okay, you represent the seller and you've just gotten into mutual acceptance on contract. Now you're going to turn your file over to your licensed assistant or transaction coordinator who's going to handle all future communications and negotiations, including the inspection contingency. So what paperwork do we need for this?
Form 18.
Very good. Form 18. So if the assistant's going to be providing real estate brokerage services, you need to add them to the agency agreement with the client so that they can perform brokerage duties as opposed to clerical duties.
Question. If this did not say negotiations, including the buyer's inspection contingency, it only said communications, is that the same answer?
No.
The negotiations is the pivot there. That's what triggers that.
That's a trick
agency
word.
relationship.
She just wanted to show how much.
And again, you can use the other box to identify any limitations on the duties owed by the licensed TC to the client.
So if we're still handling all of the negotiations, we don't need to add them in as.
Only if they're gonna provide brokerage service. So if all they're gonna be doing is like scheduling, file coordination, sending out an email that says, oh, here are our deadlines with certain things checked off. You know, kind of file management, copying, you know, that, all the clerical things. They don't need the agency relationship. It's just that they're providing brokerage service.
Okay, gray area. So what if they're a licensed TC and we want them to fill out a 35R, and we're just telling them what to put on the 35R. They're sending the 35R over to the clients, but they're not doing the negotiations.
Well, preparing a document themselves, even under the supervision of another broker, is qualified as a brokerage service.
Okay, so
If they're
then-
just sending something that you've already prepared, then that's clerical. But if they're filling it out, even if you supervise it, then that is brokerage.
We just added 18 to all of our listings now, and we just say who Janelle and person are my admin
Then you're
TC and what
covered.
their roles are, and then it's just.
Yeah. So
on there.
for the listing, that works. What about when you go into a contract?
What do you mean?
Then remember, we're creating the relationship and then we have to disclose it.
Yeah, it's
So
on there.
the disclosure part, so the 18 is between you and the seller. So to disclose that agency relationship
Yeah,
with both parties, any guesses?
Multiple brokers.
42A. 42A. So you attach that, that's a place for you to disclose additional brokers.
Yeah.
In the transaction on either side, either buyers or sellers. And that goes with your contract.
Can the TC be licensed with another brokerage?
No,
What if they're licensed at Mount Sound and you're a Puget Sound agent?
that's okay because you have one designated
Gotcha.
broker. So that's all right.
Yeah.
Even though it is a separate license, which it's a good question.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, maybe, oh, we're doing our time. Okay, let's do one more. You've got a newly listed property, you're really excited about it, but you have family commitments that might call you out of state on a moment's notice. Maybe you have the aging parents, maybe you have son and daughter-in-law who are gonna have a baby soon, but you don't know exactly when you have to go and you want to be there as soon as you can. So you're gonna be leaving town with short notice. And you're thinking, I need to get somebody in place to ensure that my client has uninterrupted service for their listing. And of course, you will know that as soon as you leave town, you're going to get an offer. So how do we cover this?
42A.
What, Howard?
42A.
42, exactly, 42A. But you can add the additional broker to your agency agreement with your seller before you leave town. And just that, Travis, again. And it's best to go ahead and introduce that other broker to your seller so that they have an acquaintanceship at least, so that when they need to provide service to that seller or their emailer, hey, we're getting an offer coming in, or here's the offer for your review, talking to, they have some kind of a personal connection that's made. I think that's a smooth way to do it. And execute that Form 18 ahead of time so that your substitute is in place, they're acquainted with your seller, and then you will feel easy in your mind to go and be with your family and know that your business is well taken care of. And then when you do get into contract, yes, if they would need to have a 42A attached. Travis?
I write on all my stuff. My team, I'll say, listing with Travis Morse and Morse Real Estate Group, or buyer agency with Travis Morse and Morse Real Estate Group. Is that sufficient to cover like my buyer's agent on my team, or everybody else on my team?
No, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
You have to have the specific person. Because you can't form an agency relationship with an artificial entity. It has to be a person.
a real entity.
Well,
With
not
lots of
an, not an
persons.
LLC, not a,
Right.
yeah,
With lots of persons, it has to be.
has to be a person, pick a person.
Has to be one person. Trying to say I'm making movies.
But what you could do, Travis, and what we do is then do it on there's an attachment to the buyer agency, what is it? the
41A,
40
A for amendment.
Yep, and then you write it down at the bottom and just attach
Yeah.
it to all of them, like if you have showings,
Right.
whatever, that just covers it.
And so you can always amend the listing agreement with an 18, you can amend the buyer's agency agreement with a 41A, and you can amend the purchase and sale with a 42A. So those are the numbers to read. Thanks so much for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, who has taken Value Squared? Okay, who wants to share some feedback or how you've implemented it in your business, or what were some ahas from it?
Not everybody at
Raise your
once.
hand. Travis?
For me, it wasn't necessarily anything different. Always do this, but it did help kind of reinforce and bring me back to the forefront some things. So like actually that guy I talked to yesterday, I saw him. As we were having the commission discussion, I used, the words I said, I said, well, what I found is that in absence of value, all that we have to talk about is condition. And this is last time and it didn't work out, and I said, so I don't want to do a bad job for you. I don't want to I don't want to cut any corners. And so for me, to be able to do what I think you deserve, this is the value that it comes with. And I always want to look at compensation as an investment in ROI, not as a cost. If it's going to cost you something, why you might as well just go do it yourself. But if you're going to invest and get a return on that, then I think that's what we're talking about. That's where he was like, okay.
Mike?
I wrote a value proposition for buyers and sellers.
Ooh, I love that.
Never had it.
Are you gonna be bringing up the seller's value to your class?
Sure
Awesome, I love that little plug for today. Okay, so we're gonna talk about trust today. Who knows what the 4 areas of building trust with your clients are? You're an idiot, okay, that's one, where would that fall under? So the first one is empathy, I don't know what order they're, oh, yes.
Oh, the thing.
So understanding and caring and authenticity. The second is competency, knowledge, skills, experience, and then transparency, honest, clarity, openness, communication, and then dependability, promises kept and expectations met, maintain confidentiality. So we're going to touch on some of these with sellers and buyers today, and then bring it full circle of what you guys are doing in your business in these 4 areas, or an area that we need to improve on. Take it away, girls. Oh yeah, how trust is lost. Number 1, fail to show empathy and your client will question your sincerity. Number 2, fail to deliver on competency and your client will question your expertise. Who wants to read number 3?
Fail to provide transparency and your client will question your ethics.
Number 4, Tracy.
Fail to ensure dependability and your client will question your integrity.
When you fail to set expectations, you're setting yourself up to lose trust. When trust is lost, so is your reputation, and with it, your reviews, ratings, and referrals.
So we're first going to talk about the losing trust with your sellers. So who wants to read? So these are going to be 8 moments where you trust is built or lost with sellers. So number 1, who wants to read that one?
Making first contact.
Can anyone give me an example of how you build trust or have lost trust with sellers, or how you could lose trust with sellers? No one needs to throw themselves under the bus.
Build it by being dependable and keeping your word and following through.
Absolutely. Yep. So when you first make contact, so if you're setting an appointment, maybe show up to the appointment. I don't know how many times I got to a listing appointment, they're like, oh yeah, the person didn't even show up. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, how do you just not show up?
If you're following up, leading up to the appointment, tomorrow, so good at this time.
Exactly. And maybe be on time, maybe a little early.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Number 2, when you're presenting value, reaching an agreement, and setting expectations. So how can you be building trust during this?
Confirming that what they heard It's what you said.
Yep.
Or what you intended to say.
Absolutely.
Trust and verify.
Trust and verify. How could you lose trust during this?
Overpromise and underdeliver.
Or not setting expectations.
Not setting expectations. Absolutely.
And just talking over, listening to the, like, I think listening and repeating back.
Coming from curiosity.
Yep, so they feel heard first and foremost, even because like, even sometimes you're telling them something they don't want to hear.
Definitely. Yeah.
But if you confirmed with them and you stood beside them rather than talking at them.
Yeah.
I always try to partner with them.
Number 3, who wants to read this one?
When you're educating around milestones in the process.
So again, setting expectations. How could you be losing trust during this?
Skip it.
Skip it? Skip it altogether. I don't know what the heck's going on. Missing your deadlines. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of deadlines in all of our contracts, and if you don't know them or you're not communicating it, then it could cost them money, right? Cost you money too.
I also think about communicating the milestone we just hit, what's coming next.
Next.
Very
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
I think we see this a lot when our clients start calling us. This is where trust is lost. If they're having to call you and ask you what's happening next, that's already something that they're starting to question. So being ahead of that so that they're not wondering what's going on.
And if you're not able to keep on top of the timeline, that's when you hire a TC, because then they can send that on your behalf. So it makes you look good.
And that's different for every person. Sometimes that's
yeah.
one transaction, sometimes that's 50. So don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. If that is not my bill house, I should not be in that area. So that is one transaction for me. So, so don't think that you don't need one. It's usually best to hire one right away if you know that that's not your strong suit.
Absolutely. And number 4, who wants to read this one?
When you're executing your marketing plan.
So I think building trust, we do a lot in probably our presentation, right? Telling people what your marketing plan is. How do we lose trust when we're doing this?
Skip a step.
Or just not
No,
doing
I
it,
was gonna
saying,
say, we
oh, I'm
already
gonna
have
send out mailers,
Yeah.
or I'm gonna do whatever, and then you don't do any of that. You can definitely lose trust with the
Right,
sellers.
Right.
I think it's also sharing your results, right? Do you have a system set up maybe to give them the results of your efforts? You know, they want to know what you're doing is working or that it's actually.
And setting that
What's
expectation,
promised.
I tell my sellers, hey, on Tuesday, you're gonna get a report of how things went over the weekend and then what we're doing moving forward for the week.
Yep.
So they know, they expect me to be following up with them on Tuesday to have a little like graphic of how, feedbacks from showings, how, what the reach has been, things like that. So making sure you're building the trust and stick with it. Put a reminder on your phone if you need to, that every Tuesday you need to call your seller.
Also be humble enough to, show that you, like, if you made a mistake or like I had a situation not go the way I planned.
Yeah.
Where like somehow the neighbor found out because they knew the person making an offer on the scene this weekend that I had. And listening to the offer didn't expire until Monday and I was waiting for a free approval, but Monday morning I get a text from my seller like, did you get an offer by chance?
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, yeah. And I just had to tell her like, she was good, but I had 2 ways to go about it. I could have spun it to make myself look good.
Yeah.
Or I could just be honest.
Yeah.
And one of the things was I missed the pre-approval came in Sunday. I didn't see it. I missed it.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, I totally missed it. I made a mistake. I mean, I was gonna share it with you before the deadline anyway, so I wasn't trying to sit on it. Just not trying to make sure. And she was like, oh, you're great. It's all good. So just being honest with people.
100%, absolutely.
I also think you talked about the results, but just sharing what you're doing also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I said we were gonna do just listed, just said the just listed cards, like community.
You'll get less phone calls from the sellers of like what's going on if you're oversharing. Like, hey, we did a Facebook ad, you got this many clicks, you can send them the report right out of command, like how many people like reached it and all of that. So just overshare and then you won't get those frantic phone calls from them. Number 5, who wants to read that one?
When you're providing ongoing communication and feedback.
So I think we've kind of hit this one already, but obviously have the expectations up front, stick to those expectations. And if there's, hey, if you're gonna text me, I'll be available, I'll respond within an hour, 2 hours, we're gonna call me, just set expectations up front and I feel like you build trust.
I think it's really important too, also on this one, set expectations at your listing appointment on a scale of 1 to 10, how honest do you want me to be regarding your feedback? Because, you know, do you want it exactly as it was? Do you want me to Oreo it? Like, you know, we need to understand how you need to communicate with them in those moments. And so that way you're not just forwarding the feedback and it's, you know, that could really hurt their feelings and you lose trust with them. So get really clear on that and check in, like, hey, you told me you wanted a 10. Are you still feeling that way through this process?
I think also we ask them in our questionnaire how frequently they would like to be communicated with as well. Daily, every milestone, every week, so you can also learn from them what they want.
Yeah.
So number 6, when you're negotiating contracts, how can you build trust during this? Yeah. It's okay.
One of the things I always say is like, hey, so I'm gonna communicate with you, like, just be really real and be honest. I want you to know though, when I go back to the other side, I'm a bulldog. So everything we're talking about is about expectations, just so I don't overinflate the situation and disappoint you. I want you to know potentially how this could go. However, I want you to know I'm not communicating that to the other side. I'm going for the grand slam over here. And
Having their best interest.
yeah, see if we can get it. And usually that helps because I found in the past that if I hadn't done that or I caught myself just being too transparent, they were starting to feel like, are you gonna, like, oh yeah, I'm not talking to these guys out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good point.
but you know, they need to know what could potentially happen, but also need to know that I got you back.
Removing ego. Absolutely. I feel like that wrecks a lot of transactions.
Your opinion versus your client's opinion, right? As
Or
the
the other
agents involved,
agents.
that they want to say, well, my client said this or that, and really they haven't. So
Yeah, how can you lose the trust besides that?
Well, just doing stuff without talking.
Yeah. Assuming that you know what they want without having the conversation, right?
Without giving them all the options
Yeah.
and allowing them to make the final decision.
I think sometimes we just want it to be quick, like we just want to negotiate, we want to get it done, we want to get under contract, but we need to really respect. Some sellers don't like that. They want to take their time, they want to think it over, they want, things like that. So we really need to know them and know how they respond and how they want to communicate to make sure that we're doing it.
I think it's important too is, asking them, do you want me to share the other offers as a seller, right, with the buyers? I don't know how many times I asked a listing agent, they're like, why can't share that? Well, can you not? Or did you, seller is not allowing you to share that, right?
Did you ask?
Did you
Yeah.
ask them?
Yeah.
And so I think that's important too on that end, so that you don't just go into your negotiation mode. You can explain to them how you work and they can agree to that, but we still need to get their agreement on how we share the offers that are presented in a multiple offer situation as well.
Absolutely.
And that's an excellent point, that you can't share that information if you're selling.
Seller.
Allows
Agreed.
you, yes, allows it. It's not your decision, it's your seller's decision.
And then number 7, when you're in the due diligence period, how can we build trust during this time?
Communication.
Communication? Absolutely.
You understanding what.
You understanding what the timelines
contracts,
are?
Yeah.
You understanding what's needed?
And also how to get out of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think we know the very basics, but what's the more next if something was to arise, or how do we handle those in that situation?
And always being like, if always being on neutral ground, like partnering with them. So you're never gonna spook them out.
Yeah.
So I mean, even when I've been in situations like the inspection report is off. Like, I never make it sound like this is awful.
Right.
But what I will say is like, hey, I'll say, guys, there's a lot on here. It depends on their situation. If they're cash buyers, they can absorb it. Hey, you're getting a good deal. This is why. But if they're a freaking FHA, DPA, I'm gonna say, I've said it. I said, you guys are grown adults. You make your own decision. I'm concerned though if you move forward with this house with that financial.
What about from a seller perspective? So this is from the sellers.
Yeah,
How do
okay,
you-
so on the seller perspective, I mean, on due diligence, I always say, like, unless we know something is absolutely wrong, have a professional out. We'll let the professionals decide what's going on there, and then decision.
It's not the vendors on speed dial.
Yeah, they,
We are not those.
And
That's
leaving
fair.
our opinion out of it, I think that's what
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
Travis, is like,
exactly.
we need to leave our opinions and our advice out of it. We're not attorneys, so we should be advising them anyways.
Yeah.
And we can get them going down a big, long, emotional trail if we don't keep our emotions between the lines.
100%.
Very good.
Maintaining objectivity is really important, but also, I just had this conversation with a broker who's got a first-time home buyer to put 40 items on their inspection.
That's great.
Oh,
So my advice in retrospect is give them some tools
Right.
to analyze, you know, like, well, we need to look at the safety items, the big ticket items. You know, you don't want to nickel and dime the seller to death.
Right.
Because that might impede the progress of your negotiation and help them that way with the goal of moving the transaction forward instead of getting stuck. And that's where this transaction is they're stuck.
Well, and how often, you put like smoke detectors and CO2 on, what is the seller gonna choose to do on that 40 list is probably
The little
change out the
ones.
GFCI plugs. or
Yeah.
not the-
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna do the easy ones and
Yeah.
not the big ones.
I
so-
had a first time home buyer actually put change the light bulb and
That's-
going up the stairs. You know, you can't do that to someone because they're gonna get so
Yeah, they're just gonna be.
upset. They're gonna
Yeah.
say, I don't want to close with these people.
No, yeah.
Well, the
Speaking of closing,
When you're closing the sorry, Travis, you got some,
Well,
yeah.
on that, the other piece of that is, so I never want to steer a client, a seller or a buyer, but it's again, setting the pros and cons of the situation, right? Okay, let's say we got something like that. It's my job as the representative seller, not to just be like, here's a list of crap they want. It's to be like, all right, these guys are new. They obviously have an agent that has been coached them on this. Don't get too over your skis about these 40 items. Here's what I would recommend we do. Let's look at the items that maybe any buyer is going to have an issue with.
Yeah,
right.
And because if these guys walk, most likely this is going to come up again. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the pros and cons, and then ultimately letting them make the final decision and not saying you have to do this or whatever, and finding a way that works and not putting your own bias.
Well, and asking the other agent,
Right,
what is
having
most
that
important
conversation.
to that buyer?
Yeah.
And what's most important to your seller and to that buyer, maybe two
Totally
separate
different.
things.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we can just, as a listing agent, get an inspection response with no phone call, and you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go, right? Like, so being able to pick up the phone and having some of those tough conversations, especially in this market, when maybe other agents aren't trained or feel comfortable.
I'm prioritizing the list too, like we had like
Yeah.
12 on our list. In my mind, I'm thinking anything more than 8 or 9 is excessive. So I was reviewing buyers, I just asked them like, what's priority? Because
Yeah.
this is kind of on how it's going to go.
And especially when those lists get really long, I tell the buyers, I'm like, they're not going to agree to all this. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, we will try our very best, but let's start prioritizing what your
Yeah.
most important things are to you, and then we'll go from there.
And that's exactly what we did. and
Yeah.
it worked.
40 items are not going to get them.
I probably
when I get to a
20.
Form 34, it's getting too long.
I know, right?
Right.
I feel like everyone's doing a Form
I think
34, even
about
if it's
half
one thing
that
now.
list could have been done by a handyman team in a day.
Right, exactly.
So that's the kind of thing.
All right.
Awesome. We're gonna jump to the same conversation around buyers. So, first one, when you're making first contact, it's a way to earn trust or lose it with buyers.
Be early.
What they have to say about what they want, where, all of it.
A lot of questions.
Lots of questions.
When you're presenting value, reaching agreement, and setting expectations. How's it different from how you do it with the seller? Or is it?
Being realistic, you cannot get anything in the dollar for 300,000.
We're not gonna get you 5 acres.
No.
Right.
It's important to highlight that, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise they think they can do that. And then they're discouraged when they start the search and 3 months later, they can't find anything. And things are expensive.
That's a lot of times why I have them come to the office
Yes.
and I build the
Yes.
search right in front of them on that big TV.
So they
And I
can see
say,
it.
oh, yeah, exactly. So that I'm not like hiding them from them. You know,
Right.
like sometimes you hear people be like, oh, you're just not showing me things. I'm like, I don't have anything to show you. I can show you nothing, you know, but if you, that's the proof is in the pudding right there. You're showing them and going, okay, this is what you can get. You don't qualify for this piece of lovely mobile home that is garbage, so your
Yeah.
loan won't allow it.
Right, putting the parameters for an
Yep.
FHA loan and then.
Right, right. You have nothing about that.
Well, and I think
Maybe a
getting
little
the
not as harsh.
promotion-
And sometimes it works.
You have nothing.
You have zero. How about we do something?
But then I mean, maybe the location, okay, we can only be in downtown Puyallup. Okay, well, maybe we need to go farther because
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen.
Well,
you
if you
know?
just say to them, look, if
Exactly.
we were to expand this out
Right.
of just this zip code, maybe, you know, we go to all of Tacoma
Yeah.
and all of Puyallup and
Yeah.
Stanaway, you know,
Do you also during this time set expectations of your availability for showing
almost
homes?
certainly.
And that maybe
100%.
not gonna happen in an hour from when you contact me?
No, right. When I always tell them ahead of time too what my day off is.
Yeah.
Sunday is my day off. I don't take calls. I don't, and then sometimes they'll be like, I know I'm sorry it's your day off.
I know, it's,
However, I just wanted to let you know, blah, blah, we're going to an open house this weekend.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So with me, when I set my expectations, when I'm meeting with them, I also give them a stack of my business cards.
Same, yeah.
And let them know, I can't be with you all the time. And just like when you were maybe looking for a new car, you see your car all over the place, you'll start hearing people who want, maybe are interested or have questions. Please give them my card. Or when you go to these open houses, you give that agent my card and they'll probably call me and thank me for sending you to that open house.
Moving along.
When you're qualifying them.
Pretty much the same.
Kinda hit that.
Yeah, I hit all of
Yeah.
that.
Also talking to them about their payment, not just their,
Yes.
but
Right.
what they're
Right.
qualified for,
Right.
especially in this market. A lot of
Yes.
people
Yeah.
don't understand what their payment's gonna look like at 6, 7, 8,000, 5, whatever, even though they can afford it.
right.
And they're freaked out once they see that. So
Yeah,
we can
$4
cut that
grand.
off a little bit
Yep.
and talk about potential options to help them
Yeah.
navigate, reverse engineer.
Jack and I just
That's,
talked
I mean,
about that
literally, I
yesterday.
always ask them, who's your lender, what is your pre-approved amount, what are you comfortable paying monthly?
Right.
Because that's not
Right.
the same thing
No.
always, so it's like, just because you're pre-approved for that, doesn't mean that's what you wanna pay monthly,
Right.
so.
And protecting your time in that too, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Say that.
Yeah.
sitting down and having not pretend buyer consultations, but real consultations with buyers that are ready to go. It's your business, so you can decide how you want to do that. You know, as you get busier, it's a little bit harder to meet with every buyer that may not be an A buyer ready to go now.
You know, I always ask, what's your max comfortability? Because I usually find they'll be like, well, I want 3,200. And I'll be like, okay, is that your max comfortability? I mean, we could go to 45. Right?
Yeah.
That's a different, that's a.
But you get that a lot. and
Yeah.
so-
Back to you up now, not
Yeah,
yet.
right,
Yeah.
To gauge and make sure you're
Yeah.
hitting it, like Tracy said, ask a lot of questions because you want to hit it from every angle to make sure that you're not limiting their search.
Right.
either,
Right.
And 3D, right?
Yeah.
Like what would that have to look like for you to have house at 4,500?
I'd also say, don't assume they're getting a loan. So I would
Yeah.
say, rate are you paying cash or obtaining financing?
Yeah, and I think in the qualifying, we also ask, like, are you paying your own closing costs? And what
Yes.
is their
Yeah.
financial situation? You
Do
know,
you have
you
money
have this
saved?
large down
Yeah.
payment, but are the funds available for earnest money? Like, so we are asking those questions in preparation of a possible offer. So we're not finding out like, oh, it's actually gonna be 4 days because I have to get it from this investment account. I can't deposit my earnest money in what we would consider.
Well, and
traditional.
it's not in their bank account, so you have to have a evidence of
Disclose
funds
that. Right.
form and
Yeah.
disclose it in your contract if it's not in their bank account.
Yeah.
So make sure that that is how. Yeah, source it.
When you're searching for properties. We'll do these two together, searching and showing.
Making sure that you're sending them stuff that they told you they want to see, you know? And if you, anytime I go outside of that, there's two things. I always say, set an expectation, say, hey, if you find anything on Redfin or Zillow, and it's not in the portal that I
Which
send,
is most.
it's because it's outside of the parameters that we're setting today, which is totally fine. You can change these whenever you want, but just know that's why it didn't get sent to you.
Right.
And then, secondly, I'll usually say, look, I'm gonna send you, I may send you something that's 25 over if it's been on the market for 30 days.
Right.
Because there might be an opportunity for us to negotiate, and I don't want you to miss out on it. And so setting that expectation so they don't get something, they're like, why is he sending me houses
Right.
over my price point? And then now it feels like I'm not listening.
Well, and then they can all go, then they start
Right.
setting their search there, and it's a tumble if you don't set that. Right?
Yeah.
Let them know your efforts when you're searching off market.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's off-market.
I think what also is important with this, I don't know if you guys are feeling this as well, but oftentimes my client is finding homes faster than I'm able to even get them out. And so also telling them, like, we're not just glorified door openers, however you want to spin that, right? Like,
Yeah.
you may find your own home, and that's very common in this market with technology and everything, because you're gonna be excited and searching Redfin, Zillow, whatever, hopefully.
Hour of the day.
Yeah,
right.
reality, right? And it's at all hours because you're excited. So don't be discouraged or think I'm not doing my job because I'm not sending that to you. It's very common that you will do that yourself prior to that.
If it's a long search window and you've been searching for months, sometimes I'll bring like a little pick-me-up when we see a house. That goes along with it.
What is that?
What is that? Yeah.
Could be cookies, could be bottle of wine. could
Oh.
be- Like in 2021, we put like little baskets together that were like Advil and sleeping mask.
Yeah.
Oh, when it was craziness, when they were like 15 offers deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also,
Let them know
And
that-
now you need one.
Yeah, let them know that you're thinking about it.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
we also print flyer, like a flyer from the MLS. and
Yeah, I
houses
print out
we're
the client
reviewing.
detail every time.
Yeah.
I got clipboards too, like little
Yeah.
miniature clipboards with
Oh,
house feedback. So like if they're a
Oh.
high C, I did like 1 to 10, condition 1 to 10, and some people love it, some people don't.
We rate every home 1 through 5
Yeah.
or including the 3.
Yeah.
So if it's a 4 or a 5, it's something we're gonna consider making an offer on. If it's a 1 or 2, there's no 3s. You gotta make a decision. And we do that, and then so the first house we go see, we rate. If it's a 4, we're like, okay, what can beat this? And if at the end of the day, that one's still standing, it's like, okay, this is the one, or we think we wanna make an offer on it. And then we, sometimes you get buyers that are hesitant, we look at their criteria, and I always set the expectations up front. This is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go back, always go back to your criteria, change anytime you want. This is where it's gonna go. Because it's easy to get emotionally sidetracked.
Yeah, and forget why you started, because you're like, oh, I could really do an open floor plan, but I wanted this, and their top threes change
Right.
when you get emotion involved and you're actually touching tangible inside of homes. The other, I would say, how many homes you show
Yes,
too is
that's
really
what I-
important, and you're setting in your consultation, like we don't show more than 4 to 5.
Yes.
And because they're just gonna get confused, even 5 today is
Yes.
really tough for
We
them
usually, we're
to.
like 3,
Yeah.
5 max, and then
Yeah,
I always say we
max.
usually are writing an offer
Yes.
somewhere between the 5 to 7 mark. If I'm showing you 30 homes, you're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be exhausted.
And you should probably get in real estate at that point.
Yeah.
if you don't have that much.
Yeah.
We need to have a different conversation.
One of the things I like to do to build trust right away whenever somebody new is I'll make sure to go to houses without them, make a short video walkthrough. And then when they want to go see it, they'll see that what if they just, that what I said to them in the video is what they're seeing when they see it. So that when we get a little further into the transaction, I build the trust that they can trust my quick video and that they don't have to go see every single home that they listing. Because I don't want to take them.
Yeah.
But I do that right at the beginning so they can just immediately see that the way I'm explaining it in the video is exactly what they're gonna see when they walk through.
I had an idea.
Just now or?
I've sat on it. I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
But I think a way to build trust with sellers would be when you're going through a market analysis, depending on the vicinity, their active competition, go and tour that with them.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, that's what they said to
I've never done it. I don't know if I want to have time to.
Yeah, I think it really
If it's
depends
easy.
if it's on a price point and how close it is.
Sure.
We've absolutely
Mhm.
done that back in the day. We haven't
Smart.
Yep.
re-engaged that.
I'm gonna do that this week. I'll let you know. Do it with the other condos.
Yeah.
I think it's smart.
The way I don't spend the time to do that is I just like Tracy said earlier, but I'll do it like I'll do the either over Zoom or in person, the CMA, like they see it. I pull up the MLS and we're seeing the property, so we're not walking through them,
Yeah.
but we're at least seeing them in person and talking through them rather than just here's your CMA or whatever.
And the like 6 photos that
And
you
so-
see.
yeah, so that's why I could make, well, you can manipulate those too.
Right.
So like you see the whole, hey, you're
Yeah.
seeing what I'm seeing. There's
Yeah.
that transparency now with buyers. God, what the hell was I gonna say on that? You got me
While
off
you're
track.
thinking with stuff,
Yeah.
with your CMA for sellers, it's also important to call the pendings, and you can even call them, so it's called the actives. Write notes on them, get descriptions, don't just present, get the whole story, so that they have
Trust that you've
trust,
done that.
and you
Yeah.
write on it, like actual take notes.
Yeah, I call them pendings, right? So
Yeah.
we can find out like, did they
How
get
many
asking
offers,
for-
yeah.
How many offers?
And that
Any
builds
closing
trust.
costs?
Yeah,
know what
what
you're
the
doing.
traffic was like.
And
all
then
of that.
also like, okay, this home sold for, I'm up in Redmond right now on a listing. It's like home sold for 150 over, but look where they started.
Yes.
If we start too high, they probably wouldn't have got that if we started there. Here's how this works. We're communicating now with the buyers. What I was going to say for showings, I always am doing like, if I can, open up the crawl space, stick my head down at a flashlight. Like I'm looking at the electrical panel. I'm peeking underneath the sink
Yeah.
for leaks.
Yeah.
So when they see you doing that kind of stuff, I'm kind of knocking on the side a little bit. They see you paying attention. It builds trust. Like, oh, this person's looking me up.
Yeah.
Looking out.
Yeah.
Well,
Not just,
oftentimes
like,
we
on your
just do
phone.
it so quickly, because we've been in it for so long,
Yeah.
that sometimes
Yeah.
slowing down to
Yeah.
show them,
Yeah.
like what to
Yeah.
look for in homes too.
Yep.
So.
And
Okay,
I
we
do
gotta get
call them
moving.
actives
Yeah.
prior to taking my client to the showing to see the activity, what the
Oh, yeah.
feedback's been,
Absolutely.
and kind of get all the deets before, so that if they do want to make an offer, I know what to negotiate.
And know, like, if you're showing a buyer that has, like, yeah, they're interested, like, hey, we love this house and there's an offer review date, call the solicitor. Are you gonna actually honor the offer review date?
Right.
Because you don't wanna be like showing up to
Right.
the house and it's like pending,
Right.
you're like.
Yeah, that's nice.
Also, if you have a listing and you're accepting an offer when there's a showing scheduled, call the
Call the
agent.
person,
Call
yes.
everybody.
Cancel, well, cancel it and let them know why you're canceling.
Call them,
Yeah.
I mean, if you have an offer and you're the listing agent, I would call everyone that's interested.
Yes.
Absolutely.
How quickly do
And
they come
send a
see the
showing
house? Hello,
time
would you want more
notification of
offers?
multiple.
You want more
Yeah,
offers
so
for your
extra.
seller, like, do your due diligence.
Okay, we gotta move on.
Okay.
We're moving on. I said 6, 7, and 8 together, negotiating, due diligence, and closing. What are some, like, 2 or 3 nuggets of what are you guys doing to earn trust in that time frame?
Vendors, yep.
Vendors, okay?
Let them know that you're objective and you're helping them achieve their goal.
Yep.
And have the courage to say, man, this one isn't for you.
That's right.
And really knowing the timeline, due diligence for buyers,
Yeah.
there's a lot of timelines for buyers,
Oh my
not as many
gosh.
for sellers, I feel like, so just making sure you know those and know what would happen if we don't respond by X amount, time, things like
Especially
that.
with the inspection, right?
Oh,
Because the
100%.
seller has so many
Gosh.
days to respond. If they don't respond, like, what are your timelines? What is the buyer's obligation? All of that.
Yes.
Okay, moving
All
on.
right.
Yep. So we have Debbie, preferred lenders, and Isaiah, you guys come up.
He's not coming up. He's like, I did that last week, Debbie, this is you.
Keep
By
clicking.
chance, just curious. No,
I don't think
One
we
more.
have.
okay,
No?
no upcoming training, whatever.
Okay.
I am very impressed with you guys. I mean, to hear all that you're doing, I had no idea how deep you really have to go. I don't get to hear all of it all the time, and really lean on your lenders to help you too. And I know you guys all do, but what a professional group of people I get the opportunity to work with. I just wanted to share, this was my birthday weekend, and it's still going this week. I've got a few minutes. But my sister, my daughter Kelly put together a little dinner party for me at Stanley and Seaports, but she knows how much you guys all mean to me. And so she took it upon herself to grab Isaiah, and he went around the office as I had cataract surgery this last month, so I wasn't here a whole lot. And I have probably 50 or 60 little notes that each one of you took the time to put together for me. And I've read them more than once. This is my love box now, and I'm going to keep it. I treasure it. But I just want to say thank you very, very much for all that you do, not only here, but for me. Have a home buyer class next Tuesday night coming up, so please get your buyers in here for that. And I did go to a couple open houses this last weekend, And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the amount of people that are out there. We're seeing applications come up, and rates did drop again today, state bond for the first time.
So where are we?
So encouraging. What was it, 7 3/8 today for the state bond, which it's been 7 5/8. So just little stuff like that. Every little bit helps.
And
And I
open
think I
houses
have
are
the buyer
hot
that's
right
got
now,
the 40,
super hot.
yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so we have lots of upcoming trainings where I'm really working on the education calendar to bring in more workshop style things for you guys, which today we have Travis and Mike doing a listing workshop from start to finish of what they do. We're gonna have one in Kent next month. I cannot tell you who it is yet because I have to still get them to agree, but it's gonna be magic, okay?
Okay.
Moving on.
All right, Red Day, this Thursday. Who is signed up to volunteer? Okay, we still have some opportunities. If you cannot attend, but you still would like to participate, scan the QR code. There are numerous ways to make a donation, whether it's monetary, whether it's an actual item that's being shipped. You can give me money. We are still looking for cash for the graduation lays that we're going to be putting together for the wishing well, the foster kids that are graduating. And so there's plenty of opportunities. Again, if you haven't scanned this yet, please take a moment to do that. It's this Thursday. Where your reg show up directly at the site that you volunteered. There's no need to come here to the office. And then if you're interested afterwards, a handful of us are going over to the log cabin, Tori's Bar in Sumner, just to hang out. So that's where a handful of us will be afterwards. But those of you that have signed up, thank you. Those of you that still want to, please do. This is also on the Facebook page. Again, this is a day Keller Williams worldwide shuts down to give back to the community. So we can all put our business to the side for one day or just 4 hours or whatever it might be.
And it's Mo Anderson's birthday. I think her birthday is actually the 10th, but she's like 87 this year, 88. So, I mean, that's awesome to be able, this legacy of hers is continuing on.
For
So.
sure. So Q2 client event, if you're not knowledgeable of what these are, this is something the office is helping coordinate for you guys to do an event for your clients. So that it all the legwork is being done for you, the smart plan, you literally plug and play. So if you haven't signed up and want to be a part of that, scan that QR code, it's a little small, or reach out to Nicole Coomer. She's the one spearheading this. It's $50 for you to sign up, and you get a huge client event for your clients. As a reminder with events, it's not about if they show up or not. It's about inviting them and having a reason to call them. So you don't want to call them after they have a real estate need. Call them if they want to go to ice cream party. That's an easy call. So utilize this. If you're part of C2C, you can just let Mackenzie know if you would like to be part of this, and she'll put it in for you. So hopefully we're making this as easy as possible for you guys to execute some of these events. We'll have a Q3 and a Q4 event as well coming. One more slide.
There's one class, Party to Profit, that is May 16th in our office, 3 to 5. It's build your database with people that want to hear from you, never wonder what to say, and have them thank you for calling. If you're not getting a 10% return on your database, I would definitely be in this class and learning the areas that you could grow from. I don't know what the cost is. Have a great day. Mike and Travis's class is out.
Come over here, we take a selfie.
Here. So,